everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I talk about issues and topics and experiences I've gone through while swearing. There's a disclaimer at the part. I'm not even going to test that. There's a warning at the start of this podcast because I do swear profusely. I do talk about sensitive topics, none of them G-rated really. So if you don't want to hear that, that's absolutely fine. You can turn it off now. I'm not gonna feel bad about that. I think it's only about 4 people watching anyway. So I don't know why you're watching me. But yeah, if you don't want to hear anything that's negative today, just go watch something nice, man. I'm not gonna give you shit for it. It's Tuesday. We got a while to go till the weekend, so you know. Topic for today is taking self-ownership, which links into accountability and authenticity. A lot of people will hide from who they are, or they'll mask it, which is, you know, a bit hypocritical considering you're talking to an autistic right now. So, why is there social skills? I don't know, just copy what everyone else does. But taking ownership of yourself, it's also, you know, it's a case of being who you need to be, who you want to be, which is the natural inclination, regardless of those around you, regardless of what has happened to you. It's an active participant in your own reality. It's saying, I have had some shit done to me, maybe, but I'm not the product of my experiences in that way. I can choose to be something. I can choose to go what feels right for me, rather than social obligations which I find myself in. And it works out to be, you know, aligning more with authenticity than it does just participating and hoping no one notices. So, taking ownership of yourself, well done. A lot of people are afraid to do it because, you know, they might have to unmask. They might have to show what their real interests are, and if it doesn't coincide with what the people around them are interested in or willing to tolerate or participate in or demand from them, then they feel like they might lose that group or position or value in that group, which is a bit dangerous in yourself because you find yourself accountable to those around you. You don't actually hold worth in your own actions and, you know, traits and behaviors. You're trying to fit in for the sake of fitting in. You lose value in that way. It's not authentic. It's a case of I have to do these things or be this thing or wear this uniform, otherwise people won't like me. And it's also linked in with external validity. So much coffee this morning. External validation. Oh my god. You know, which is heavily flawed. I mean, whilst people want to belong to the social groups and surrounds they find themselves in, it also puts their self at risk. You lose your sense of self in trying to become what you assume people want you to be. Even if you go into things like the workplace, as a teacher, there's a certain level of professionalism that I have to follow, which I definitely let slip yesterday. My kids are hilarious and I pissed myself over something I shouldn't have. So I couldn't hold that one in. So they were shocked that I laughed. I'm going, even you know it's wrong, and we all laughed. We're all in trouble together. Oh shit. Yes, but I'm the grown-up. Oh, double shit. But I pissed myself. It was a very inappropriate joke, but I couldn't stop myself. So, you know, even I'm human. That's not to say what the content that they were joking about actually aligns with my values or morals, but the fact that they had said it so loudly, confidently and clearly and announced it all over the class, that shocked me into pissing myself laughing. So that was what got me that time. I won't say what the joke was because it was very inappropriate, and I'm not even going now. I can't believe you fucking said that. But I pissed myself. And I shouldn't have, because the kids were there like, oh my god, even the teacher's laughing. I'm like, fuck off. But that was my, you know, unmasking coming out, because it was hilarious, and it was just it was done so innocently as well, and they just didn't register that it was completely politically incorrect, and those went, oh my god. But you know, there are professional standards we must follow. Thank God there were no other teachers in the room. God, Jesus. And we all do it, and it might be a case of covering up our authenticity for a large chunk, because we have to follow certain roles and rules. But at the same time, when it's your own time, you want to take ownership of your actions and the decisions you've made in your life, and accountability. Otherwise, you're not living an authentic life. You're living an idea of an authentic life, whereas usually, it requires things like virtue signaling, where you think you're doing the right thing because everybody else says this is the right thing, and so you look for external approval through these right things. But it's not the right thing, because it's just giving the people what they want in order to say, I'm one of you. The outside world needs to line up with your inside world, essentially, your psyche. Otherwise, you tend to get a little bit overwhelmed and you crash and burn psychologically, which then feeds into the physical degradation, the sort of finding coping mechanisms to deal with the mismatch of the internal to the external. So much coffee. You won't believe I teach kids. What's an outternal? I don't know. Get a dictionary. What's a dictionary? Oh yeah, get an iPad. No, there are days when I'm fried. We're all human. It's okay to slip up sometimes. In silly ways like that is okay. Not to be a product of your surrounds, even though, from a social constructivist viewpoint, you are the product of your surrounds, realistically. And if you're talking about nature versus nurture, it's never a case of versus. It's also a case of nature and nurture. They're inseparable. It's a symbiotic relationship. So if you've got a predisposition for a way of thinking, oops, sun in my eyes, or a natural inclination to certain traits, for example, I've got autism, I've got a natural inclination to certain traits and behaviors which will maybe seem a bit odd to some people who are so-called normalized or neurotypical. They've been helpful to me for years. I just never picked up on it, really, because it's so, you just go with it. You don't actually call it out. This is my natural inclination, I'll just do it anyway. But to some people that might seem a bit odd. That's my nature. The nurture I found myself in growing up, which was the poverty-stricken, abusive cycle cliche, essentially, was the nurture side of it. So that was the environment I found myself in to cultivate these behaviors. Some behaviors died down, some behaviors arced up, some were nurtured, some were hindered. So you've got to take accountability for how the external influences your internal as well. No one is immune to these forces. People can say, oh, I'm fine, it doesn't affect me. It fucking does, they just won't admit it. Let's be honest. Let's take accountability for how it might or could or probably has affected you, and see how it might reflect on your actions, behaviors and thought patterns in the future or the present. Some people have got that weird mindset where they just want to live in the now. Living in the now is a cop-out to me. This is a case of I don't want to think about my actions from the past or how I participated in a story in the past, which could reflect in how I'm acting now. That way I can completely negate myself a consequence that's coming in the future. It's the chicken shit way of thinking. It's like we got to look at all three avenues. Try and make connections and see how our past actions have shaped our current situation, and thereby might perpetually create cycles which we need to break in the future. But they don't want to. It's too much like work, isn't it? It's too much like consequence, too much like potential pain or inconvenience, or I'm comfortable where I am, so I'll just sit with where I am. Then it leads into things like victim mentality, victim blaming. You know, a lot of people that can't take accountability for their own actions will seek to find external sources of blame. I can blame someone else for this because it's not my fault. I might be sitting in financially shit circumstances, but it's definitely not my fault because, you know, they took our jobs. You know, I don't know. I'm feeling South Parky right now. They took our jobs. It's like, no, did you upskill? Did you go looking other places? Did you adapt? Did you overcome? No, they took our jobs. We're going to blame someone else. It's like, not an excuse. Or, you know, like my girlfriend left me. It's like, did you cheat? No, she left me because she's a horrible human being. It's like, did you cheat? No, it's always someone else's idea. Someone else's problem. Everyone abandons me. I'm like, oh. We need to take accountability for the decisions and actions we take in our lives. Take ownership of ourselves. Otherwise, it's going to get very cloudy and you're never going to make any kind of progress because you're constantly looking to defer blame to someone else. A lot of people are afraid to take accountability. It seems to be a very adult thing to do for me, or for my mindset, you know. Because, you know, for every action is a consequence. That's an ongoing thing. That's been talked about, philosophized about for eons. Even in physics, is like for every action there's a reaction, right? So why would you do something and not expect a consequence? And it's a lot of people also facing a softened lifestyle, where common sense goes out the window because we become so cushioned to not having to deal with the consequences of our own actions. We can sort of weasel and negotiate and wiggle our way out of taking accountability. But realistically, there are going to be times in our lives when we face real-world consequences for our actions. And no amount of denying who we are and what we've done in this is going to save us from the consequences. You've got to be faced with it. If you were unfaithful to your partner, the consequence is the partner will fucking leave. Another consequence may be that you never find someone after that because, you know, you're not learning from these behaviors or the consequences of the behaviors. You keep treating people the same way. They won't stay because you keep doing horrible things to them. But they'll always say, oh, this is based on my trauma, or people keep leaving me, or I keep attracting this particular type of person, or, you know, it's, what part did you play in it, realistically? So realistically, were you a good person that treated them right? And there are particular examples where people are just generally good people, and they try to do the right thing, but they still attract dickheads, you know, which is not your fault in that way. Your fault in that might be that you tolerate dickheads for longer than you need to. Nice people that just try and find the, are you doing good? Oh, don't get in there, come on. Ooh. I'm sorry, I'm gunning against a truck. I won. In a contact. That was shit. I smoked him, no. No, it's stupid. Anyway, but, you know, we've got to take account. I mean, if generally you've led a good life where you've treated people humanely and ethically, and, you know, you've done everything right that is nice, not just by the book, because sometimes the book is misleading. If you're following social conventions and norms, a large chunk of it is just going along with because it's tradition. Some of it's common sense, but a large chunk is tradition because we have to, we feel obliged to. Whether it's, you know, realistically part of what we should be doing is often questionable. It's more of a case of familiarity. We've done it this long, so we carry it on. Some things become outdated. A large chunk of things become outdated. We have to constantly reassess what we're surrounded by and what values and norms and behaviors we should be keep going. But people fall into habit where they don't want to reflect and they're afraid to stand against these norms and values. So, you know, they tend to just go with it. What is it the saying? Go along to get along. Yeah, I keep hearing that one lately. People are just going along to get along. When in fact, and in confrontational fact, I should say, that what they're doing is they're actually doing the wrong thing ethically. But this is what we've always done. Yeah, but is it real and aligned with what you feel you should be doing? At the moment, I'm laughing, like this has been for a few years, I'm laughing about the concept of wokeism, which is just scaring the boomer generation, quite frankly, as far as I see it. But at the same time, within their generation, the hippies scared them as well. So it's like, you're scared of a bunch of pot smoking people that sleep around. It's like, okay. It's just a weird thing to be scared about. Okay. What are they going to do if they're not shagging? They're unconscious. What is the threat here? It's immorality. They're not doing it to you. But the woke generation, we are quickly becoming the woke generation, which is the millennial / Gen Z, which is just another wave of older generations not knowing or understanding what's going on with the current or future generation that's coming. It's happened in so many ways, so many times, and over so many time periods. I'm laughing about it because the woke generation, in essence, is based on aspects which came from their generation. You know, Black Lives Matter, which was considered this wonderful thing at the time until it got bandwagoned, was just based on the principles like Martin Luther King and stuff like that. It's based on their shit. We took it and we went with it, you know. But now it's become demonized because people started profiteering off it, which is true. If you look at the BLM, the spending the BLM organization, I want to say movement, had when they gained resources from charities associated with that movement. Candace Owen does a lot of good podcasts about, because she went into research what they did with the money that it got. You'll find that it got misdirected into activities which weren't exactly ethical and didn't serve the movement, which is any organization, to be honest. There's never a wholly clean organization that funnels wealth well, because if there's money to be made, someone's going to be a dick. You know, people are opportunists. There's always one. You know, you hear your parents say, "There's always bloody one." You take a nice thing and you ruin it. It's always one, isn't it? Of course, I was raised by Cockneys, so I know all about it. They're very observant people. But so that's why I have trouble latching onto anything that's like bandwagoning, because there's always a flaw in it. It doesn't really wholly match with what I view as important or valuable on the inside, because there's always someone who will stand up and say, how can I exploit this for something or other? Money, sex, status, attention. It's a tricky one. So you might find yourself in social groups that are non-conducive to what your internal alignment is, your ethical internal alignment. My progress towards internal alignment is more to do with moral cleanliness at this point. People could latch on to a particular organized religion or mindset, political party or something like that, and say, this is the way. Mandalorian quotes, this is the way. But, there's always the chance that you'll find flaws in that way of thinking, or errors in the way it's designed, that creates these pockets of potential exploitation. That's why I have trouble signing up to an organized religion, or I have trouble, believing any kind of political party, because there's too much chance for it to not be clean, morally clean. And the problem with that is that a lot of social interaction is also a game of illusion. We want to appear to be the benevolent leader. We want to be, the one that's just the one of the guys, like the royal family. They're just like us. They're not fucking like us at all. They might have arms and legs, but I'm pretty sure they're not like us. Definitely not in the way they live. But they want that illusion of being like us, because it means that we're going to be more on board to do whatever they want to do and believe the PR stunts that they, push their agenda with. Their agenda is that being. I'm going to represent what is UK, or an aspect of the UK, for example, if you're looking at my particular cultural royal family. which is funded by the government. The government is funded by the taxpayers. Of course, they have to appear to be good people. Otherwise, they're not going to get paid. And there goes their social status and their position in society, whether they're doing the right thing or not, which is fucked up, quite frankly, because looking at, Unky Andy, he's not exactly doing the right fucking thing, is he? And yet we're paying for it. So, people got a little bit narky when he started doing the dumb shit and getting caught for it. That's why I can't really ascribe to any kind of organisation like that, because I used to love it when the Queen was around and Prince Philip was around, because they had that sort of moral high ground as far as I could see. I mean, Philip was a bit of a, covert racist. But it was a case of, that's that generation, and that generation will die out soon. We're not going to keep that rolling. But from what I saw, the Queen always kept her hands clean. It was never a case of she's got some lurid sex dungeon somewhere with a bunch of kids, It's like, well, actually, she's got a shit ton of corgis. That seems morally clean to me. And I love corgis. So there's never been a case. Oh, I got a French triangle. Oh. Sorry, I just remember touring around France one time, and we had to get this triangle kit in the back of the car. Otherwise, if we got pulled over, we'd get fined. And I actually just saw one. I was thinking about it yesterday. Anyway, tangent. How can we solve this problem? Give them the triangle. No, it's a legal requirement if you're going to drive in Belgium or France that you have to have that kit, that emergency kit with a triangle. I don't know why it's so weird. Anyway, we're not going there. But this is a weird tangent. To take ownership of your actions. Now, those people in particular, the royal family, for example, or any political party, to be honest, because they deem themselves as representatives of the divine, doubtful in their actions. Their actions do not reflect the morals they keep trying to tout. But with any political party as well, the problem is they are putting on a mask and hiding behind a shield of assumed identity, where their inner alignment doesn't reflect their outer actions. And that's, they're not taking accountability for their actions as well. For example, Uncle Andy, Uncle Andrew, the one with the very shady fucking record, got bailed out by, Charles. And that doesn't seem right either. So, even though they tout themselves as this pro-Christian, high morals organization representative of the church, their actions speak louder than their words. It does not reflect the values and morals touted by the church, which in a sense also taints the concept of the church, because they are supporting these people who are not living up to what they're supposed to be doing. That's just one particular strain of organized religion, following and supporting one particular example of a social organization. As individuals themselves, as, other actions reflecting what they internally believe and take ownership for. Sorry, my stutter is kicking in. I'm having trouble getting words out again. Now, we have the luxury of anonymity. We're not famous. Well, I'm not famous. Nobody wants to know what the fuck I'm doing. But we also have things like a conscience. Now, as far as I can see, power and money tends to blunt your conscience, whereas living in poverty also might blunt your conscience, but at the same time, there's a direct consequence. You might get arrested. You might get, you haven't got any bodyguards around you protecting you. If you start a fight, someone's going to fucking punch you, So we've got a more realistic survival instinct when it comes to interacting with people. No one's here to protect us. We don't have trust funds to fall back on if we go broke. We have to really live in our actions and take ownership for what's going to happen. If you choose to, do what Harry did, fuck off to Vegas when he was younger and play strip poker and shit like that. Whilst we don't have cameras on us, or we might have cameras on us if we've got dick friends, there's always one. The reality of the situation is there's no bodyguards to get us out of these tight situations. There's no trust fund to fall back on. If our boss saw us doing that, if we posted it on Facebook, there's a chance we could get fired. And that sense of realism tends to guard us from doing stupid things. You know, the odds of us actually doing strip poker with a bunch of hookers in Las Vegas is pretty fucking slim, because probably most of us are trying to get work on Monday. So we tend to develop a better sense of conscience, and our morals should align with what our conscience dictates. You know, it's strange. More power and money equals more exploitation of position. I don't like it. You know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You've got things like the Magna Carta, but at the same time, Charles just ignores it. So it's like, why do we even bother starting it? But that's a gripe I have with that particular person and that particular circumstance. I don't think they reflect the authenticity of the position. I don't think they've got the depth and weight of the responsibility associated with it. I think they're doing lip service to the idea of it rather than actually living it. Having said that, not my job, not my problem. And if someone comes after him, not my job, not my problem. Not my monkey, not my circuses. But yeah. But as common man or common human, I say man, I don't. We're not going that way. As common humans or people, we should be reflecting, you know, an accountability for our actions, knowing that there will be a consequence. There will be a fallout if we choose to make bad decisions in life. Oh, crow babies. We also need to try and direct our actions towards more constructive ways of thinking and doing. If you can load the dice, and I've said it before, if you can load the dice in your favor, absolutely do it. Some people see it as cheating. I'm going, if you know that you've got a job coming up and you need a certain skill set, go and get the fucking skill set. So, if you know you're trying to apply for a job and you need a forklift ticket, go get the fucking forklift ticket. Don't just assume that they're going to pick on you. They're not picking on you if you didn't bother having the skills. Yeah, so actions and words need to line up with the position that you want or the person that you want to be. You need to direct your energies towards self-development as well and skill mastery, because nobody's going to want an underskilled person operating in a doctor's surgery, for example. What does he do for a living? Fixes drains. Why has he got a scalpel? It's like, well. Yeah, he thought he could. Oh, I love that when the royal family walks into somewhere like a school or something with no experience or understanding of the process practices or anything to do with the actual context, and then says, we need to promote education. It's like, fuck off, said every teacher everywhere. Fuck off. Oh, we're doing it for decades. Who the fuck are you? Start claiming this shit. If you really believed it, you'd live it. Authenticity, actions lining up with inner values. Get off your ass and stop relying on trust funds and actually do the fucking job. Stop just touting and virtue signaling that this needs to be important. Then do it. I'm doing it. But it's a load of it's just twaddle, isn't it? Updooting, self-promoting twaddle. This is a value that's common in society. It's valued in society. I need to seem important and keep getting paid, so I say, this needs to be important, and so everyone should follow. We're bringing awareness to it. You don't need to bring awareness to things like education. It's already in the system. We know about it. We know about it. What you need to do is liquidize some of your assets and distribute it so we can actually make it better, rather than promote yourself and your brand. But we donated money to what? The rich schools? They already have money. Donate it to the broke schools. Give them assets and resources. Make the classes smaller so we can actually teach the kids more appropriately rather than get overwhelmed and stressed out. That's why I don't like politicians. It's the same level of lies. It's like, you're just lying. It's manipulation of the crowd to get what you want. It's not taking accountability for your actions, because suddenly they'll blame someone else when their electoral promises don't come to fruition. Crazy. And yet, time and time again, we want to believe that they're doing the right thing. Weird. But you said when you were standing on your pillar box and people were funding your electoral campaign, you said time and time again you would help us, and yet you never do. Yeah, I could go on for ages about that. I won't, because it's boring. So how can we... Oh, I've just pulled up to work. I got like 13 minutes. I'm gonna park here because it's good. How can we make sure that our inner values and alignments match up with what we're doing? It's a question of integrity, something that is somewhat alien to the current social context. Integrity, where people are willing to take the easy, sneaky way out if they can. It's an honor system, or a lack thereof, I should say. Cheating has become normalized. Not doing your job properly has become normalized. People are more inclined to make it look like they're doing something without actually doing something. The lip service of, I want to help, but I don't really want to help, but I want to make it look like I want to help because otherwise it might come across as mean, or, it's a lot of a lot of stuff that isn't ethical, quite frankly. The best thing you can do is make sure that whatever you're feeling, thinking, or believing in terms of ethics and morals actually lines up with what your actions are in the real world. And it's tricky because you don't, especially if you come from a background where you're a people pleaser or something like that, or you do have to get along to go along. There's a lot of things like politics in the school system, that this particular school, for example, that I'm at today, that I don't agree with. I could voice my opinions. It could start arguments, but you need to find a tactful way to make sure that you are approaching these issues. Some people just won't bother making that tactful approach because it might destabilize their position in the situation. I'll tell you what, there's nothing more destabilizing than a permanent teacher. A teacher who's been there for like 50 years does not give a fuck. They will say whatever they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want. They don't care if you're the principal or a parent. They just do not care, which is admirable because at least they're living authentically. But that's just the workplace. You got to live your life in an authentic way as well, that where your insides match your externals, and you're taking accountability of your actions and taking ownership of who you are and what you believe and where you stand. It doesn't matter what other people say. You have to live yourself. You have to live your own life. Everybody's on their own life journey. Everybody's making their own decisions. You can't make someone else's decisions for you. I mean, that's one of the cruelest things about things. You can't make someone love you, which is just horrible. And you can reason out with them. It's like, if you had this kind of a life, it would be wonderful. We do this and we do all that. But, if the insides don't line up with the outsides, if the love's just not there, then the situation, relationship, or whatever ends up happening will just not work. It just won't work. It'll peter out. That's why, a lot of relationships that are built on lust or a quick fling, which then turns into a situationship, just don't last because the fundamentals aren't there. The foundation isn't there. There's no project working towards an end goal or co-alignment of values. It's just not there. It's like, why did we start this? Because I thought you were hot. It's like, that's not a reason to be together. It's like, what about all the other stuff that's around that's needed? No, I just thought you were hot and now I'm kind of bored, so I'm going to go find someone else. Or you find yourself in a situationship because you found them hot at the start. It petered out, but now you're living together and you can't afford to move out or something like that. It's like, this is a bit shit. It's like, yeah, well, did you take accountability for your actions? Are you now living in a situation that you're uncomfortable in with a person that you don't really like and not interested in? But because you moved in together, it's now a problem and you can't escape because there's, I don't know, a housing crisis, or you don't own enough to pay your own rent, or there's always... This is why it is integral at the start of it to think, what is my internal alignment here? What are my values? What could be the consequences of my values? And you should always be tweaking to try and get a better set of values, now that we know better, we do better. You should be looking to develop them better, cleaner, more ethically, Not just going, well, this is where I am and this is around about what I'm familiar with, so fuck it, I'm just going to stick with it. It's like, no, because you'll go through the same cycles of getting stuck in situationships with people that you've fallen out of love with, and it's just shit after shit after shit after, and then you get more and more jaded, and more emotionally unavailable, and it's all because right at the start you didn't think about what you actually wanted or actually needed or where you wanted it to go, and you just didn't stop and think. People tend to rely heavily on their instincts rather than their reasoning a lot. Or it could go the other way. People rely too heavily on their reasoning and don't follow their feelings. A lot of people will stay in a relationship that's toxic because the logical sequence of events is, I've had kids with this person, I've got a mortgage with this person, I can't afford to physically leave financially, I guess I'm staying. It's trapping. It's not living within yourself. It's not your insides reflecting your outsides because you don't love this person anymore. Yet you have to stay with them. It's toxic as fuck. And you'll find that when you don't weigh up and match up your insides to your outsides, that it will get taken out on your kids, yourself, your spouse, your surrounds, your mental health. It just ripple effect of bad shit not matching up. You'll find yourself burnt out, depressed. Just like, this is why it's so important that we find the right internals to match the externals that we want to live. It sounds very vague, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to have to leave it there because I've got to run into work. I've got my year sixes today. Right now, my internals are matching with my externals, so I'm quite happy about that. I'm also working towards a project. Even if I have to do it alone, I'm working towards a project. Which is good because I'm able to look at myself, take accountability for my actions. I'm saying, what could I do better? Where could I go next? What's the main purpose of my actions? Are they ethical? And it's good. And I will be tweaking that along the way. It's not something I just sit in and say, this is the be all end all, this is where I'm going to go with it. It's a constant working document of refining and tweaking. And eventually you may end up somewhere else altogether. I mean, it's better than you expected. Of course you would park next to me. Yeah. Anyway, of course you would park. This is an empty car park, but why not? You know how I love that. But, it's a constant sense of refining and tweaking and figuring out what you want and what lines up with what you need, and not in a selfish way, but in a I need to be able to exist holistically with my surrounds kind of way, rather than just go with the flow and assume this is going to work because everyone else is doing it. I hope you have a fantastic Tuesday. Take it easy, and I will chat to you hopefully not this week but next week, because I've got local schools next week. Take it easy, okay? Check in for alignment, hopefully. Don't be afraid, okay? This is just you. Don't be afraid of yourself. This is just you. Be mindful if anything's not right, if everything's not checked in and lined up, then you might want to have a go at tweaking it or finding a better way of doing it or removing it. Because long term, better to fix it now when the cut is small than try and fix it later when it's ripped open and sucks. So I'm going to leave it there, I think. Have a good Tuesday.